7:24. Welcome back to First Stop this Monday morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We shift from the Police Service Commission now to the ongoing inquiry into the collapse of HCU and CLICO. We have as our guest former head honcho of the Hindu Credit Union, Mr. Harnarine. Welcome to First Stop. Thank you for joining us this morning.
A pleasant morning to you all, and also to all the viewers on CTV.
This commission of inquiry is ongoing. Of course, we all have to be careful in terms of what we say, because the commission is ongoing, and I guess because of the sensitive nature of many of the proceedings, we will try to stay what is within the ambits of not being libelous. Mr. Harnarine, I'm seeing that your attorney, Farid Schoon, accused the commission of being subject to a plot against yourself. Do you believe there's a plot against you?
Certainly, from all the evidence so far, we are certain that the inquiry at this point in time is taking an approach that is personalizing all the witnesses and also the opening statement of the Commission of Inquiry attorney, Queen's Counsel Carter, whereby one might thought that they should have taken an independent approach, listen all sides, and after listening all sides, then have the cross-examination process take place. And then the commissioner, who is Anthony Coleman, he is the one in his final report will determine whether or not it was a failure of the regulatory system, whether or not it was the board that did not carry out the fiduciary duties, whether or not it was the public that was schemed into a Ponzi scheme, as you know, it has been said out there. So you see, you have an inquiry that is open the bowling with an attack, a personal attack on Harnarine. And we have noticed that the witness statement from many credit union shareholders were well orchestrated by an attorney who is also an attorney that represents the commissioner. His wife was a past employee of the Hindu Credit Union, and it was an irony to see that Mr. Permel was asked, well, okay, give us the name of CLICO depositors so that we can have them bring in witness statement. When in the HCU case, you have attorney, one of the attorneys, and I'll prefer not to call name, who were actually taking the database from Hindu Credit Union, calling these witnesses, having the statement printed, prepared exhibits, and everything else, and these statements were actually being dictated by him and signed by the credit union members. And one have to ask themselves the question, well, how come the same approach was not done for CLICO depositors and only HCU shareholders were chosen to do so? To the extent that it was a manhunt with the credit union database going to people's home, one of the attorneys, and actually working with his laptop, having exhibits. So if you on a closer examination of the witness statement by the members of the credit union, you will notice it is well prepared and all is stereotyped in its presentation. And one would have thought, even if you're having witness statement, the witness statement, one would have expected that the questions to them and probably the whole approach would have been whether or not, just what Mr. Schoon is doing, that a shareholder understand his right, his responsibilities, his expectation, his conditions as a member or a shareholder of the society. And then the inquiry could have said, well, okay, at the end of the day, it is clear that people are joining credit unions without understanding the bylaws, without understanding the responsibility as a shareholder, and then probably credit unions, probably a recommendation can now come out that, okay, every member must now sign a bylaw, have it recorded in the credit union records, so that people would not blame the regulator, blame the government for the collapse of credit union in the future. So you find that Mr. Schoon questioning was not in any way to attack the members. It was more or less to find out from the members. So Mr. Schoon, in fact, was doing the job that Mr. Carter was supposed to do and Mr. Gerald Ramdeen was supposed to do. So if you really look at, if the media really examine Mr. Schoon's cross-examination, it was never an attack on the members. He was sympathetic towards the members. He was asking the members the pointed question, whether or not you understand the bylaws of the credit union, whether or not you understand that you are a shareholder and not a depositor, whether or not you understand that you were not covered under the DIC. So we are saying that it's an attack and also the whole Commission of Inquiry at this point in time, in our view, is polluted. I'll tell you why. The government of Trinidad and Tobago, in their appropriation bill of 2010, okay, have proposed in the budget speech that they are going to bail out CL Financial Clico, British American, okay? In Hindu Credit Union case, the Minister of Finance have said, and if I quote him verbatim, that the government will provide funding for the Hindu Credit Union to the tune of $300 million, whereby depositors, shareholders of the credit union, will now have to assign the rights of the assets of Hindu Credit Union in exchange of the payment that is now due to them. Okay? Now, this was passed by the Senate, and then you have the appropriation bill was approved, and then circulars came out from the Ministry of Finance. This then followed by $75,000 to be paid to credit union depositors in the first instance, and in the second instance, members above $75,000 will be paid over a 20-year period. The government then came in the review of the economy in the parliament sometime in March month, and they said, well, okay, the 20 years can now be reviewed in terms of a shorter period. They have not really stated what is the shorter period. So in the opening of the inquiry and in the cross-examination by Mr. Carter and Mr. Ramdeen, telling members, you have lost all your money. In my view, it is undermining the confidence of the government, and this is why Prakash Ramada had the task of now defending whether or not the government is still going ahead with their plans to pay credit union people and Clico people, when already Clico people have received their $75,000, and Hindu Credit Union is now in the process of receiving their $75,000 as the first payment. So one was lost at the beginning of the inquiry and at the examination stage, cross-examination stage, that Mr. Carter, who's a Queen's Counsel, and Mr. Ramdeen, who's also an attorney, is putting it to the witnesses that you have lost all your money.
Make a pause there.
Mr. Harnarine, I just want to get one thing cleared up. We've heard some pretty heart-rending testimony from some of these shareholders who've been called to the witness stand. And I'm just wondering, the comments that are being made or the statements that are being made in reference to you, is any of that untrue?
The one about the secretary coming to give a testimony that a matter that is personally involved myself and her in a personal transaction, which was fully guaranteed and full satisfaction. And if we want to go into it, probably we can go into it.
Yes, please.
Right.
I just need, just
yes,
for clarity, say, are they lying on you on the stand?
No. The transaction, myself and the secretary, was an authentic transaction. It was in consideration of acre of land, and I then procured a loan from the Hindu Credit Union. The loan was approved by the supervisory committee. I've been servicing the loan in the Hindu Credit Union, and the deposit is in the name of the person that I purchased the land from. No, she have not lost her money, and again, Mr. Carter and Mr. Ramdeen put it across on the media, buy it wholesale. The secretary, she did not lose her money. If the state is now honoring the debt, but by the state honoring the debt does not mean that I will not have to pay my loan for the sums that I have secured in paying her deposit for the land.
But much of her testimony indicated that she went through duress in the process of trying to get her money back, as it were.
Because she could not, no, she have never applied for her money. The fixed deposit matured during the time of the liquidation. So therefore, it falls now into the state paying out the amount to her. And if the state did not pay out the amount, the credit union had sufficient asset whereby at the liquidation process she'd have received a full amount.
Mr. Harnarine, you're suggesting that there's a disparity in the way the inquiry is going about handling the Clico CL financial issue and the HCU issue, and you have serious grouses with that. Much of the part of the reason given, of course, is because of the scale of Clico versus HCU, and also the issue as to the HCU company has gone into liquidation, which is not the case with Clico. It's still a running concern. There have been many assertions made from the Credit Union League that many years ago there were red flags regarding the operation of HCU. Do you think HCU was operated according to best practice and following all the rules and regulations as outlined?
Certainly. In fact, this room here, this television station here is very historic, and I don't know if you are aware that in 2004 we obtained an injunction against TTT News and Trinidad and Tobago published TNT News Center, which is the TNT Mirror. Why? There was a malicious news article that was well orchestrated and designed by 3 prominent religious leaders. And I can call the name because it's in court here right now.
No, please don't call the name.
With Shelley Das, the reporter.
We will ask you not to call the names.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, no problem.
If it's in litigation, we stay away
The
from
matter, an injunction was granted against TTT and TNT News Center when the credit union get an approval of an Exim Bank loan for us to launch our television station that was known as Global Television. When Mr. Bob Hill came in Trinidad to sign that agreement, we were looking out for the news the night that the Hindu Credit Union received an approval to go ahead with this project. You know what we see on the headline? Hindu Credit Union, Bob Hill was appointed receiver for the Hindu Credit Union, and the Hindu Credit Union is now in receivership. And the other national newspaper take that news and run it as their headline. And TTT continued to run it until an ex parte injunction was obtained through Mr. Frank Solomon, Senior Counsel. And that injunction remained against TTT and TNT News Center until the time of the liquidation in 2008.
So you're saying that happened?
And that created a run. And that run was a callback for over $625 million. And it did not stop there. When the attack was well orchestrated on the credit union, Mr. Satmaraj, or let me say prominent Hindu leaders, they then came out and said that Harnarine is creolizing and douglarizing the Hindu Credit Union. They then made a call through a press conference by 4 prominent religious leaders, go and take out all the money from HCU.
Is that a fact of law? Because we can't allow you to say things that mean...
That is a fact of law, and it is in the court, and the court grant an injunction on the matter.
So you're suggesting that is the reason for the demise of the start of the demise of Hindu Credit Union?
That was the cause for the run, and I would not say the demise. Between 2004 to 2007, audited figures again, we have paid out $425 million. Now, may I remind the national public and the audience that you have what you call, to create stability in financial institutions, confidence. And then all institutions are governed by what you call international financial standards of matches and mismatches and liquidity ratio. So just recently when CLICO collapsed, a major bank almost faced a run, and that bank, quickly the central bank, were able to put a mechanism in place that stabilized, because it does not mean that the bank was weak, but it was called back for deposit because panic started when the major shareholder put under Section 44 by the central bank.
Just a bit of clarification, Mr. Harnarine. The problems are associated with CL Financial and CLICO Investment Bank. CLICO itself is still a going concern, which is in the black, making money. Many of the other assets within the CL Financial empire are still financially viable.
Not as far as I'm aware.
Based on the information that has been made available to us.
Give the public domain.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what we have to work with.
No, but it is a fact, and we have to be. We cannot come here.
But I do recall.
CLICO is under Section 44. It is under the control of the Inspector of Banks, Mr. Carl Heralal, and the government have approved monies to fund the statutory fund. The argument, and one would have thought that the inquiry would have said whether or not it was funded, because if it is that you say you are funding and give a guarantee, and when Mr. Purmel wanted to bring out that information, the Ministry of Finance lawyers gag him, and the commissioner, Mr. Anthony Coleman, said that Purmel cannot say that. He cannot talk about it. So probably I cannot talk about it here as well.
I would prefer you don't.
Right. So coming back to the Hindu question, yes.
But the bottom line is that the institution is still functioning. It has not been shut down. It is not in receivership. It's still earning.
Because Karen Tishera, the then Minister of Finance, chose CLICO balance sheet and their books were worse than Hindu Credit Union 10 times.
That's an opinion.
That is my opinion, and I can prove it.
Well,
compared with Hindu Credit Union.
Well, you have to prove it to
She said that Hindu Credit Union was not a systemic risk. So therefore, the government did not see fit in to prop or to bail out Hindu Credit Union.
Because of the scope and the input of the CL financial empire,
right,
under GDP.
Right.
So that was a totally different and
so therefore the formula was that we were not a systemic risk, so therefore no bailout for us. But we do not want a bailout.
So
but the thing is, though, Mr. Harnarine,
never gone on record for a bailout.
But I just want to, I'm just casting my mind back to conversations that we would have had in the past.
Yeah.
And I'm remembering that there was one point in time when government wanted to step in and provide some assistance after the major run that took place at HTU. And you were very vociferous in refusing that assistance that government was offering because you felt there would be too much government interference at that point. In hindsight now, do you think maybe you should have taken the deal that they were offering you then?
Today, probably I might have been charged, I might have a civil action brought against me by the AG today, if I have done that. Because what Mr. Sherry and the PNM was saying, Mr. Harnarine, look, we want you to come here and sign a debenture, handing over all the credit union assets to the government of Trinidad and Tobago in consideration of $300 million. And I told them, no, I have to carry out my fiduciary duties and I must follow the bylaws of the credit union. And we then called a special general meeting on the 20th of June 2008. And at that meeting, the shareholders then decided on a resolution and motion whether or not we should go with the government offer or whether or not we shall go with an offer that the board have developed, an option, sorry. And the option of the board was, look, 2/3 of our depositors are large depositors who are businessmen and so on. And let us divest the assets to these businessmen. And the other third will be paid over a 3-year period through the loans portfolios and other surplus that will come through the divestment. We then agreed that a tripartite committee should be appointed, which will comprise the Central Bank, Finance Ministry, and the Commissioner for Cooperative Office. And also, with the audit that was done, it was not on the recommendation of the Commissioner for Cooperative. It was on the recommendation by resolution of the board that if we had to divest the asset, you should then have a due diligence audit to make sure that everything is done above board so it will not have any favor through the board in terms of divesting of the credit union asset. While we were waiting for the government or for the regulator, which was the Commissioner of Cooperative, to say whether or not our proposal did not work the paper it is written on. Okay, they came like a thief in the night and had a ex parte injunction. Okay, and they used the inherent jurisdiction of the court under the Supreme Judicator Act, and they then appointed a liquidator in their hustle to do it. It was even wrong in law. They then came to the court and amended the that of receiver. Okay, right after that, the Ernst & Young report came out. Okay, and when the report came out, they then said that the report cannot be given to us and we must not have the right to be heard. And the Commissioner for Cooperative then wind up the credit union under Section 58 without giving us the right to be heard. We then challenged the matter in the court in a case stated, which was agreed by the then Minister Dumas. It is now making 1 year and 4 months to the amazement of Sir Anthony Coleman, a British jurist as well, to see that Justice Kokaram have not given that decision yet. When the Commissioner for Cooperative, in his case stated by Senior Counsel Reggie Amor, have said that the board is not guilty of any misconduct, any statutory breaches, and any wrongdoing.
Mr. Harnarine.
Further to that, they then passed the report to the ACIB, Anti-Corruption Bureau. The Anti-Corruption Bureau is now making 3 years, have not questioned me, and they also informed the Commission that they have no interest in the report. Then at that point, Justice Kokaram then, in an oral judgment, said, pass the report back to the Hindu Credit Union and redact what you want to redact, because they must have the report. It is now 1 year and 6 months. We have not received the report of the Ernst & Young inquiry.
Mr. Harnarine,
total injustice.
Given what you're saying here, do you accept any responsibility at all, or your board of directors and your managers in the collapse of Hindu Credit Union, even in spite of all you're saying here? Do you think you operated in a way that was in the best interest of depositors at all times? Are you responsible in any way for this that's happened? And given all the testimony that's coming out from persons who have been affected and their families affected?
I accept no responsibility. In fact, I have carried out my fiduciary duties. I continue to do it. When I leave here just now, we are going into the court concerning Radio Shakti 97.5. The problem is that the cry and the sufferance of the people, I feel it more than them. I am one of the largest depositors in the Hindu Credit Union. Unlike Clico, me, my relatives, senior corporate management, directors of the Hindu Credit Union, in the 9th hour, we brought in money to the credit union. There's no evidence to suggest, even the secretary,
It was easy for me to give my secretary cash money for her land. At that time, you would have heard another story, that because Harnarine favored his secretary, he gave her cash money for the land rather than an instrument in the credit union. So in terms of the sufferings of the members, I sympathize with them. And let us be reality. What is new in a run in Trinidad of a credit union in terms of the world in a run? In a run is like a tsunami. These cries that these people are crying to the commission, they cried for me. I sat with them. I tender them. I take care of them.
Why do you think in that case, given the number of the countless credit unions in the country that have weathered the global financial crisis, is Hindu Credit Union, if we take what you're saying, suggesting is true, that there was, in your opinion, collusion to obviously bring down Hindu Credit Union for whatever reason. Why was Hindu Credit Union singled out for this, given all the other credit unions are operating above board and managing their business?
Just what is happening in the People's Partnership today, just what happened in the UNC, there's something in the genes of East Indian that they continue to not to be stable. There's jealousy, there's hypocrisy.
That's a pretty damning statement to make, Mr. Harnarine.
Casting aspersions of an entire ethnic group.
So you're saying basically that cultural practices are responsible for the demise of Hindu Credit Union?
I will not say demise. I will never say Hindu Credit Union demise, because I stand by it. By Hindu Credit Union have sufficient assets. We face a liquidity ratio on matches and mismatches, and no financial institution cannot face a problem of matches and mismatches. For instance,
just before you go on, can you imagine how it hurts a person of East Indian descent can feel hearing you make a statement like that?
But it's a factual statement.
It can't be a factual
for instance,
statement.
You have senior government
research to show that people of East Indian descent have jealousy. That's a very, very emotionally.
But I can, if you permit me tomorrow morning, I can bring recordings from IBN, from Radio Jagrati. I can bring cutout that was written in a column by Mr. Devant Maharaj, who's the minister today, the Attorney General. We had an advertisement in the credit union of a mixed person with an East Indian girl, and check certain website, and I will pass this information to you, and see the attack I faced for that. So that the credit union faced these attacks. They never attacked the balance sheet. In 2004, this Hindu Credit Union get an approval of an exempt bank loan. Central Bank approved a cambio, 5 cambio license. We get a money remittance license in 2004. We get, in 2004, also we had the appointment of the appointment of Mr. Jagdish Shiratan together with PricewaterhouseCoopers to strengthen the system of the credit union. We also get an approval of fit and proper from the central bank to be the major shareholder in Bankers Insurance as well. So a credit union in 2004 having all these approvals also say quite a lot in terms of the strength of the credit union.
And the only conclusion you can draw from this in terms of why Hindu Credit Union, as opposed to every other credit union, and there are hundreds of credit unions in this country, would have gone through its trouble, is because of a particular quality you're attributing to East Indians on the whole in Trinidad and Tobago, and by extension East Indians around the world?
Because let us confine to Hindu Credit Union, and I'm taking facts here, and I stand by it. The station is nowhere associated with my statement. I am making it. It is in the court through our injunction. Okay? In terms of the attack by all the Hindu religious leaders on the Hindu Credit Union, I can bring the recording. It is, the evidence is there. There's no, in fact, even now, as we speak here, there are a series of issues, and I would have thought that at the inquiry, they would have been parties to it to come and now say what I have done wrong. And we have to understand that in the Hindu Credit Union, up to this point in time, Mr. Carter in his opening statement, and also the liquidator attorney, they have stated the overall liability of the credit union. I think people did not pick up on it. The credit union liability to the banks of Trinidad and Tobago is $7 million against a balance sheet of close to $1 billion.
Do you think systems in Hindu Credit Union were robust enough? And if you say you were practicing proper fiduciary protocol, why didn't your systems protect you from all these so-called suggested attacks?
My brother, you need to do some research when I depart from here today to see what a run is. A run is to do with matches and mismatches and liquidity ratio.
We know what a
There's
run is.
no management in place in the world, okay? Not even the Great Britain, United States of America, could have contained a run. The central bank contained it with a particular commercial bank because of the fact it only affected them. But once it continued, and the Commissioner for Cooperative Office, he have no system in place. He do not have the mechanism. So if, for instance, they are walking dead credit union, you know, and I do not want to embarrass them here because I would not want to do injustice to the credit union movement, but there's a particular credit union. They was just suspended from the SEC. There's another credit union, belong to another denomination faith.
Please
Okay?
don't call the name.
Well, it's public knowledge. The SEC have fined them and also now decide to sell their assets. That is the Christian Credit Union. Nobody is not saying anything about that.
Until we see it in paper.
No, but are you not a journalist, my
I am
brother?
a journalist, but until
But you
we
must
can
know that the Christian Credit Union was fined by the SEC
Mr. Harnarine.
and the subsidiary company, Alpha, and it was also tied up with a radio station that they lease out and they before the courts in San Fernando.
Mr. Harnarine, we have a couple people who want to put some questions to you. Anthony is asking, why didn't you ensure that the less educated shareholders in the credit union understand the issue of the risks they took when they purchased shares? And Rajesh is asking about all the decisions that the board took on certain matters, and he wants to know exactly who the board members were, and to clarify whether many of them were friends and family members of yours.